If I was absolutely forced to declutter a palette from each brand from my collection, what palette would that be? That's what today's video is going to be about. This is a hard one, okay? Because I love the eyeshadow palettes that I have in my collection, and I do periodically declutter my palettes. So I have gotten rid of ones that like I'm not going to be using. So all the ones that are left are palettes that like I really enjoy, but for you today, I picked out 10 of my favorite indie brands for my collection, and I'm going to let you know if someone were to break into my house and hold a gun to me and say, I'm taking one palette from each of these brands, you need to give one up right now, what would that be? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello and welcome. If you are new here, my name is Rachel, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back. Let's talk about the palettes I would declutter from each brand. As I'm going through these palettes, I would love to know your thoughts as well. Like, what palette would you declutter from these brands? Or do you agree with my declutter choice? Do you not agree with it? Whatever it is, let me know. And I will also list everything that is on my face in the description box. I will try to remember to let you know which ones I got in PR, but when I pop up the swatches and close-ups, I always do write the letters PR in the corner of the palettes that I received in PR. I did say this before, but if this is your first video here, welcome, first of all. Second of all, I know there's going to be an echo in here. I'm in a new space, in a new house, and I definitely need to get some kind of padding because it's very echoey in here. So please bear with me with the sound. But let's start off. I'm going in alphabetical order. I picked 10 indie brands from my collection. These are brands that I have multiple palettes from. These are brands that I've used a lot, that I love. So yeah, if I pick your favorite palette to declutter, please don't take it personally. I really enjoy these brands, and their quality is usually so good, it's just more of a preference thing. So the first brand I want to talk about is Blend Bunny, one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas of all time, especially matte shadows. Incredible quality matte shadows, super pigmented, super blendable. I find that they're really easy to work with, and they have so many color stories that can fit all types of preferences. And originally, when I first was thinking about this, what I was going to choose, my first instinct was to choose the Forget Me Not palette. And by the way, I have done this video, I want to say last year or the year before, which I can link my previous version. I probably did mention this, but I actually don't think that I'm going to choose this as my declutter because I do actually use this palette. Like, I dip into this palette quite a lot, not for eyeshadow, but I do use some of these for my eyebrows when I want to use a powder to fill in my eyebrows. And I do dip into these as face highlights. I don't really enjoy these as eyeshadows, but so I'm not going to choose this because I actually have another palette that I never reach into because the color story is just not super in my preference. And that is the Lure palette. And I know this is some people's favorite palette from the brand, but if you enjoy purples, blues, greens, you would probably really enjoy this palette. I just don't really mesh as I'm wearing a purple blue. I look. Anyway, this is not a color story I personally gravitate towards. This row or column, I should say, this column I love. And this multichrome up here, so beautiful. I feel like this is one of the first multichromes they ever put in their palettes. Did I purchase this? I believe I purchased this palette. I don't think I was receiving PR at this point. I'm pretty sure. But these kind of tones, they're very like cool toned blues, more like greenish blues, minties. Not my favorite color story. So that's probably why I would declutter this palette. I still really enjoy the quality. I still think it's a really good palette. But just color story wise, it's not something that I'm really drawn to. I do love the size of this one. It's a little bit smaller of a palette for the brand, but that's probably the one I would be choosing to declutter. Cosmic Beauty is the next brand. They are one of my favorite indie brands. Obviously, that's why they're on this list, like I already said. But I feel like they do an incredible job creating very high quality palettes for a very affordable price. So I really enjoy that. They are an indie brand out of the UK. And yeah, I think they do incredible eyeshadows. I own quite a few of their eyeshadows. I don't receive their palettes in PR. I've purchased them all myself. But I would have to say the one that I would probably declutter is the Sinister palette from their mystery box that they had at Halloween last year. I don't think this is a bad palette, and I still enjoy this palette, but I would say of the ones that I have, this is my least favorite in terms of color story. I do enjoy warm tones, but you really are only going to get like a true red out of this bottom 2 rows down here, and these are more like gray leaning cool tones. Not my favorite. I also really don't like that there is this like glossy shade down here. It is a throwaway shade for me. I'm never going to reach into that. Just as a color story, it's not my ultimate favorite. I do like it though. I do enjoy the looks that I've gotten out of this, but for me, it's just my least favorite of the ones I own. Of course, this was in a mystery box, so I didn't see it upon purchase. I didn't see this color story. Would I have purchased it if I knew this was the color story? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, I think the quality's good. Nothing wrong with that. I don't enjoy this being one of the shades, and overall, not my ultimate favorite in terms of the selection of colors. I do enjoy it that they put in some special shades into their palettes. There's mostly standard shimmers in their shimmers. Really smooth shimmer formula, not like over the top, taking over the look shimmer formula, if that's something you're looking for, and really good pigmented mattes that are easy to work with. They're not overly powdery or anything like that, but this is the one I would probably choose to declutter. The next brand I want to talk about is Dede'Signature, and Dede'Signature is an indie brand out of Texas. They are an indie brand that existed many years ago, shut down for a couple of years, and they came back a few years ago, and I never tried them when they were first launched years ago. I only tried them since they've relaunched, and I feel like their quality is improving with every single launch. So I really enjoy their like willingness to listen to customer feedback, to want to continue to elevate their products. So yeah, I really enjoy the brand. And the collection that I would declutter, though, with that being said, is this one called the Plume Collection. This was in collaboration with Makeup on Your Radar 2, which is an Instagram account that does makeup news. And it was a collection of 4 mini palettes. I do really like the Effervescence, which is all like duochrome, multi-chrome, iridescent shades, but as you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard to see, 2 of the shades were completely broken, unusable. So that's quite unfortunate. And the rest of these palettes, they're just very colorful. I also found that these mattes were hard to use, hard to blend, hard to work with. I don't really love like how the colorways are in each palette. Like I do feel like I need to dip back and forth between them to create a look that I personally like. Now, with that being said, I do really more enjoy a light, mid-tone, and deep gradient in my mattes. That's just how I do my makeup. And a lot of these mattes are definitely more mid-tone to deep. They don't really like inspire me necessarily to create cohesive looks. Like this is a little jumbled, but that is just a preference thing. Like that's just my way of doing makeup. I do always love seeing influencer collabs. I really enjoy the fact that this is an influencer collab. I really appreciate that, and I love seeing that. But in terms of like purely the eyeshadows, this is probably my least favorite that I own from the brand. So yeah, just not a collection for me necessarily. The next brand I want to talk about is Fantasy Cosmetica, an incredible indie brand that is just top notch. I feel like they have incredible quality shadows. They also offer other products besides eyeshadows. They are a fantasy-based indie brand out of Washington State, and they do collections based on different fantasy characters in gaming and movies, books, etc. They do a really good job of curating their collections, usually with an eyeshadow palette, and building out some other products around the collections. They also have fragrances. So yeah, really good quality products overall. I think the palette that I would declutter would be the Rogue palette. This is actually my very first palette I ever purchased from the brand. I do receive them in PR now, but at the time this was my first palette, and actually I don't dislike this palette. I'm not decluttering it clearly because it's still in my collection, but it is, you know, a third blue, not really like my ultimate favorite, but the shadow quality is so good. Mattes are pigmented blendable. These shimmers, I remember first looking at these shimmers when I received this palette and thinking like, oh, these are gonna be chunky, flaky, fall down on my face. They're not. They're super chromy. Like whenever I swirl my finger through it and pick my finger up, it just looks so smooth, so wet looking on the lid. I mean, really, really incredible, incredible quality. I just prefer some other palettes going forward from the brand that, you know, came out after this. And I also think because this is very heavily like blue purple, I feel like they've done blue purple palettes since this that I enjoy a little bit more. Maybe the color combinations are a little more up my alley. So I don't necessarily need this one because I've got 2 or 3 other blue purple palettes from Fantasy Cosmetica that I enjoy a little bit more. The next brand is Glamlite. Now, Glamlite, I feel like their quality does really vary based on the palette. Palette to palette. I did actually declutter the Kiss palette that I got from them last year. That was definitely my least favorite. I thought the quality was not very good in my opinion. And so that one, obviously I can't count because I've already decluttered it. But of the ones that I have left, I think I would choose the Scooby Doo palette. I think a big part of this is the size and the bulkiness of this palette. It is huge. It is really big. It has sharp corners. It's a great weapon if someone were to break in and hold me at gunpoint and want to take the palette from me. I could maybe defend myself. And also, I'm not crazy about the layout of this palette. I think there's a lot of wasted space. It's not very aesthetically pleasing. I mean, those are things I can clearly deal with, and I do deal with. But also, you know, it's quite a bit of a bright, colorful, bright, rainbow-esque color story. And if that is something I'm looking for from Glamlite, I much prefer the Rick and Morty palette. I think the quality of that one is better. I think the size of it is better. There are just so many things about that palette I really enjoy. And this one is kind of doing it, but not as well, in my opinion. I think the quality of this is good. The mattes are good. The shimmers are really nice, really pretty, really sparkly. But yeah, I mean, I still really like this palette. I think it's nice. There's nothing about that I'm like, ugh, gosh, I don't like that. Besides the, you know, the sharpness of the corners and the bulky, big packaging. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like Rick and Morty's a better version of this. The next brand is Gourmande Girls, and I think if I had to declutter one palette from the brand, it would be Nueva Vida, which is in collaboration with Steph's Beauty Stash. No shade Steph at all whatsoever. This is a very Steph palette. It's very colorful, it's very bright, and actually on camera, it doesn't really even translate how bright and colorful it is. It is very, very neon. It's going to be hard to show, but yeah, it's just a little too bright and colorful for me in terms of like what I reach for on a daily basis, what I prefer. I do really enjoy reaching into this to get a pop of color. If I want to like use it as a companion palette, that is something I really do enjoy. But creating like cohesive looks for me and my style and what I do, it's not my ultimate favorite from the brand. I do really like this shade up here called the Convertible. It is like a satin white, beautiful for the inner corner, absolutely gorgeous. I love that there's this bright, I mean, again, on camera, it's not translating. It is a neon orange called Que Padre, beautiful. Also bright neon green called Weekend Vibes. Unique tones, and I think they're really good quality. They show up really beautifully. I also like the shimmers in here. None of these are chunky shimmers. Sometimes Gourmande Girls does have a chunky shimmer formula, but yeah, I mean, it's just a bright neon colorful palette. It's a little jumbled for my brain and how I process eyeshadows. Still a good palette though, and I want to keep it. Of course, also love influencer collabs, love supporting influencers, so I want to keep this in my collection for that reason. Next up, we have Lethal Cosmetics, a really, really great indie brand that is out of Germany. They have really good collaboration palettes. They've done a lot of collaboration palettes, actually. And I think the palette I would declare from them is the one I'm wearing on my eyes today. It is their newest palette, and that's the Adventuretime palette. The actual palette is so cool. Like, it's squishy and puffy. It's very, very pleasing to like touch and play with. Like, that is really fun. I know nothing about Adventuretime. I've never seen Adventuretime. I've never heard anything about it. I didn't even know it was even a thing before I got this collection. But it's in the same theme that I've been saying with a lot of these palettes. It's very jumbled. It's very rainbow-esque. It's not laid out in a way that I really prefer to do my makeup. The mattes in this are good. I think they're a good quality matte. I don't think they're the most pigmented. Some of, especially the lighter tones, I feel like their Avatar The Last Airbender collection was like the peak of their like perfected eyeshadow formula. The mattes in that collection are just so buttery, pigmented, and I don't feel like the mattes are as pigmented in this. I still can work with them. I still think they're good. I don't think they're bad, but they are definitely more powdery. They kick up in the pan. They're not sticking to my eye as much as I would like them to. The shimmers in this are pretty. I do feel like some of these shimmers are very, very chunky, and I did use one of these shimmers in a look recently, and I actually had to wipe the makeup off because it was so, I even used a glitter primer. It was so chunky, it got into my eye, and man, it was irritating my eyes like no other. So I did have to wash that shadow off. But this one I'm wearing on my lid right now, Candy Cane Guy, beautiful, like super smooth, really wet looking, shifty. So the smooth shimmers in this, I really enjoy. Just the chunkier ones are not my favorite. And it's a rainbow palette that's jumbled. Not my ultimate favorite. Nomad Cosmetics is the next brand I want to talk about, an incredible indie brand out of Texas as well. A lot of brands out of Texas. They are a destination-based indie brand, so they do collections based on different destinations around the world. I love the brand. I own so many of their palettes. I really enjoy their quality. I do feel like their quality varies from palette to palette, I will say that. And the one that I would declutter is the Whistler Snow Lodge. I actually would be interested in this in an updated formula, and I think they said that they are thinking about doing that, or they're playing with the idea of doing that. This was like the second palette I ever purchased from them. The Haunted Europe palette was the first palette I ever purchased from them. I was smitten by the presentation of the packaging, everything. I thought it was so well thought out. And this one was no exception as well. I thought it was such a cool concept. From the ski resort, I believe in BC, it says British Columbia, Canada. It came with a coaster that you would get at like the bar at the ski resort. It was so cool. And you know, there is quite a lot of blues. There are these minty greens, not my favorite tone of green, but there are some neutrals as well as some pops of like warm burgundy purples as well. I just think the quality of these shadows is not as good as the quality of the shadows that they're coming out with now. This is a very old palette though, so I'm not surprised by that. There is this iridescent duochrome that just is very powdery, and it's not very shiny or anything like that. And if I have an iridescent shade, I definitely want it to be shiny. But they do have some iridescent shades in their newer palettes that are just miles better than this. So I'm hoping they will reformulate this and re-release it, because I think it would be a really cool, really cool palette to have with an updated formula. But as it stands, this is the one I would declutter. All right, we're down to the last two brands. The next one I want to talk about is Odin's Eye. They do absolutely gorgeous collections. They do a lot of influencer collaborations, and their artwork on their products is always so gorgeous. So the one that I would actually choose to declutter is the Spring Dragon palette. This is in collaboration with Judy, who is a makeup influencer. I mean, this cover art, I will say, so gorgeous, depicting Judy here with the dragon. Absolutely beautiful. But it's all pastels. I do enjoy this as a companion palette to reach into for a pop of a pastel. I do like having a pastel matte for an inner corner highlight, so I've reached into that quite a lot. I did create a couple of looks just exclusively using this, and I didn't love how they came out, to be honest with you. I just like to have light, mid-tone, and deep in my mattes. And some of these mattes I feel like are pressed pretty darn hard in the pan, so they don't show up the best, in my opinion, compared to some other brands that do it a little bit better. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, it's a gorgeous like companion palette. It's very Judy. I really appreciate when collaborators do palettes that fit their style as well as the brand style. And that is exactly, I think, what this is. And just because it doesn't match my style exactly doesn't mean it's a bad palette at all whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, but this is the one I think I would declutter. And the last brand I want to talk about is Unearthly Cosmetics. Top 3 favorite brands of all time. Everything, including their eyeshadow palettes, I think are really, really good quality products. and I really enjoy the brand. I have so many of their palettes, and I have decluttered some over the years, so in past versions, this might not be the palette that I've chosen to declutter, but I would choose the Spaced Out palette. This is one of their palettes that was in one of their mystery boxes in the summertime. They did like a small mystery box and a large mystery box. This was in the small mystery box, and it's just kind of a jumbled color story. I did create some looks exclusively using this that I enjoyed. I don't want to declutter this because I do enjoy it, and I did enjoy the looks that I created out of it. I think the quality of this is very good. It's their good new quality. This is another brand that their eyeshadow palettes from the past, like years ago, their quality has clearly improved, in my opinion, for sure. I've always enjoyed their mattes, but the shimmers, I think, have just gotten better and better and better. And these shimmers are super smooth, super sparkly, super eye-catching, beautiful. And I don't think, oh, this one looks like it's kind of a duochrome, but the rest of these are just standard shimmers that are just really, really pretty. I don't need a palette full of multi-chromes. I like having one or two pops. This is a good palette. I mean, it's good. It has light, mid-tone, and deep. I can't really complain about it. There are just other palettes in my collection from this brand that I enjoy more. I could give this one up. All right, and that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts, like I said, on my selection. Do you agree with me? Or what are some palettes from these brands that you own in your collection that you would declutter? I would love to know your thoughts down below in the comments, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye.